What's up, guys? Matt O'Leary back with another video. What I want to get into today, and specifically with this video, is the New York Jets' slow start, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Now, a lot of people have been very, very critical of this defense, and I think probably taking it a little bit too far. Like, I still think this is a very, very good defense. Are they a historic 2000 Ravens, 2002 Bucks, Legion of Boom in 2013 kind of defense? No, they're not. They're not the 85 Bears, which that quote kind of got taken out of context because DJ Reed was saying that if everyone performs to their caliber, they could be a team like that. And naturally, that just turns into the Jets think they're the 85 Bears. But this is still a very, very, very good defense. And yes, it's also still a problem that they're starting a little bit slow in these games, but I kind of want to talk through that and try to at least add a little bit nuance to the conversation rather than just defense stink, defense overrated, which is just really not true and is frustrating to see online. So here's some positive numbers first before we get into some of the issues and I think what's causing those specific issues. So in their last 8 games, the Jets have allowed 1 defensive touchdown in the second half of a game. So they are very, very good at making adjustments. Like the coaching staff gets absolutely crushed time and time again. Like that is everyone's favorite punching bag, and they haven't been perfect. They are far from perfect staff, but they have to get some credit, at least start to get some credit for how they're able to adjust in game, especially from a defensive perspective. They are this season the 3rd best defense in the NFL in the red zone and allowing touchdowns. There's only 2 teams who've been better at allowing fewer touchdowns once down in the red zone. And so far this year, now this is accompanying even the first half of games, the whole thing of all games, they've allowed a touchdown drive on just 8 of 59 drives that they faced so far this year. That's 13.6%. So that's 3rd best in the NFL. So this is still a very, very good defense. This defense does not stink. They're not overrated. They are a very, very good New York Jets defense. If you want to get into the debate on whether they are an elite historic defense, no, they're not there. Of course, I would not say that it is an elite of the elite defense, but it is a damn good defense. And I think the reason why they're so good is also the reason why they start slow. And you might be scratching your head and saying, well, how the hell does that make any sort of sense? But I'm going to try to talk through it. And again, this isn't necessarily justifying the Jets' issues in the first half of these games. It's more so just explaining where these issues come from, at least where I think these issues come from. So the Jets' defensive line in particular, like their philosophy for the whole defense, but really specifically the defensive line, is they're going to pin their ears back and just get after the quarterback. That is their plan. They're going to rush 4. Occasionally they'll blitz someone and rush 5, but for the most part, they are going to get home rushing 4. And that's why, their rotation is 9 guys deep, 9 or 10 guys deep right now. They have, they rotate heavy on the defensive line. They love to get after the quarterback, and that's why the biggest reasons and something that's killed them in this game against the Broncos in the first half and just at times throughout the season is 2 things. Number 1 is screen passes, and number 2 is the quarterback scrambling. I think those 2 have been the 2 biggest things that they have struggled with, and there are reasons for that. And the philosophy on defense with the defensive line pinning their ears back and just getting after the quarterback makes you then susceptible to those, dump off plays and quarterback scrambles. On 3rd down in particular, they are a team that likes to play a lot of man coverage on 3rd down. And when you are in man coverage, a lot of times you have your back to the quarterback, the guys in coverage, so they are not seeing the quarterback then escape and run. Something that they did in the second half of this game against the Denver Broncos, and something that I think they have to do significantly more often going forward, is they had a spy on Russell Wilson. Bryce Huff was doing that a little bit, and it worked. They looked significantly better in the second half of the game. They went a quarter and a half without allowing a single yard. It was the second to last drive the Denver Broncos had before they gained a yard in the second half of that game. They had 3 and outs to start the second half. It was unbelievable how good the defense was playing. But that is something that is part of the reason why they struggle against that is because when you don't have that spy and it's four guys just going a million miles an hour trying to get after the quarterback and the defense in coverage has their back turned, you're going to get beat and you're going to be susceptible to those things. Also, safety struggles. Jordan Whitehead had a phenomenal game against the Buffalo Bills. 3 interceptions. He's intercepted Josh Allen 4 times since becoming a New York Jet, which is crazy. But since then, he has really struggled, particularly the last 2 weeks, with missed tackles. Missed tackles on this team is also something that, that creates the big play, right? They're susceptible to big plays on this defense. And Jordan Whitehead has missed 18.2% of his tackles so far this year. That number is sky high. That is unacceptable. Tony Adams, 11.1% missed tackles. He returned this past week, missed a tackle pretty badly on a touchdown play, and then on a play on that same drive earlier, the long run that they had just took an absolutely brutal angle to the football, to the ball carrier, and I think that was a big problem. So whether you want to say that it's the defensive line pinning their ears back, like their philosophy there, and also on top of that, the safety struggles with missed tackles. Sauce Gardner earlier in the season struggled with missed tackles. I thought he was a little bit better yesterday with that. He's been great in coverage, so I don't want to necessarily hear the sophomore slump talk, but it is fair to say that he needs to get better tackling, and this Jets defense needs to get better tackling too. Quincy Williams' credit, that's someone who in his Jets career before this year really struggled with missed tackles. Those numbers have shrunk significantly through 5 games in 2023. He's missing just 8% of his tackles. This is someone who was up around 14% last year, and when he was with Jacksonville was over 20%. Just, again, astronomical numbers. So he has gotten significantly better there. And also, something that they mentioned on the broadcast, but it does matter, and again, it kind of goes back to how this defense was built. They don't ever play with a lead in the first half. And part of that you could say, well, isn't it their fault? And a little bit. Okay, sure, I guess I can give you that. I'll give you that one. But this defense was built to get after the quarterback and to cover. That's what they are really strong at. Their run defense, they have some guys who are pretty solid against the run. Quinnen Williams, Al Woods, Quincy Williams, CJ Mosley even at times is good against the run. But they could, in order to beat this team, you can get after them with your quarterback running and screenplays. We saw Dallas did a really good job of this as well. I thought Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys offense did a really good job of hurting this New York Jets defense. And, thankfully in the second half of these games, they adjust and they get back on track. But if they're going to have these better starts or start faster, a few things need to happen. They're not going to change their philosophy, right? Like, they're always going to be a defense that is going to try to get after the quarterback and have really good cover corners. Like, that's the bread and butter. But there are ways for you to improve your starts on the defensive side of the ball. Number one is when you're going up against the Russian quarterback, which you have two in your next 2 games coming up. You have Jalen Hurts, quarterback spy, please, right out of the gate, and Daniel Jones after the bye week. For all the Giants' problems, one thing Daniel Jones is very good at is running with the football. So you must have a quarterback spy, and they have to get better tackling. Specifically, I have the safety spot circled with Jordan Whitehead and Tony Adams as a big issue for coming down and trying to make plays and just not being able to wrap guys up. It's a problem. But is it enough for me to say this defense is not a Super Bowl caliber defense, or this defense isn't actually good, it's really overrated? That's not fair. It's also the modern NFL. Like, the team, it's very challenging. The 49ers are maybe the best example of a team that plays defense like defense was played, 15 plus years ago. Now is very different. If you're playing how the Jets are, which in 4 of their 5 games, they've held their opponents to 21 points or less, you're more often than not, you're going to be okay. The game I have the biggest issue with the Jets on defense was in that Dallas Cowboys game. And, again, against Denver in the start, they did not start that game well. That's not justifying it. That's not saying it's okay. They do need to be better. I am fully admitting that. But really the only game where I thought they were really, really bad or just not very good was the Dallas game. They allowed 13 points to New England. They were really good then. They were solid against Patrick Mahomes after bad start, but they settled down and created turnovers. Same thing kind of happened again this past week. And the turnover numbers are there. One of the biggest things is, they're not getting sacks and they're not turning the ball over. They have 9 turnovers in 5 games, and they're getting sacks. They sacked Russell Wilson 4 times. It's going to be okay. If their defense plays like this, they're allowing, high teens, maybe 20 points a game, you should be able to have success on that. Again, not a historic defense. This is not a historic defense, but it's still a very good defense. And hopefully I did an okay job of explaining why I think the Jets struggle early on in games, and hopefully they adjust. Hopefully they adjust going forward. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. I'll catch you next time.